It is a very, very special cocktail of feelings that I have here now regarding our friend Kevin Cohen, who's right in Ukraine now, and he's having a birthday. His birthday is today, Kevin, to remind you. And also, it's Hanukkah, the last day of Hanukkah. So we wanted to catch up with this holiday that is so dear to hearts of so many of our viewers and general good people all over the world. So, Kevin, what's the deal on your birthday today? What's going on? Still no electricity, like for 24 hours.
So we have electricity maybe 4 hours out of 24. It's a little bit unpredictable. The bad news is that my refrigerator defrosts itself every day, making a puddle of water in my kitchen. The good news is that my refrigerator defrosts itself every day. I don't have to do it anymore. It's great.
Yeah. How about the old St. Petersburg trick, just to hold a bag of groceries outside the window, whatever needs to be frozen? It's cold enough, right?
That is what I do. Yes, it is cold.
I
Maybe a
can
little
tell
bit
you
too cold.
that was the case about 40 years ago as well.
And it is too. It is here now. It's a good illustration of the backwards retrograde.
Yeah, the past catches up with us.
That Putin has created here. Was not here before, and he's fighting a very retrograde, backwards war. And I have here a book that you sent me. It's a very thick book by David Petraeus, General David Petraeus, who was the mastermind of the surge in Iraq. And the whole point, the topic of the book is how warfare has evolved since the end of the Second World War. And his point to the book is that you really have to understand how different war can be today, how much less destructive war can be today, to understand what a horrible thing Putin has done in choosing to fight an old style war. It's a very clear decision on his part.
How do you see the front line from where you are right now? What's happening there, to your best knowledge?
I will tell you that we have sent some really good deliveries to the front line recently, especially clothes for stabilization points. One of them is very busy right now. You're probably reading about that area in the news. And protective equipment for the guys. Cold weather is very dangerous, both in terms of full body hypothermia and also in terms of localized cold injuries, for example, to your hands and your feet. When I was in the US Navy, I did a stupid thing on duty in the winter, and I lost the skin all around the edges of my hands and my fingertips from 15 minutes in very cold weather. So I can tell you from experience, it's deeply painful. It's so painful. I only peed one time a day till my hands healed because pulling my zipper down was that painful. So I send the guys warm gloves and good socks. And it's one of the things that we do together that the guys are most clearly thankful for.
Kevin, how do the books? What's the thinking once I repack the packages that I receive to be shipped to Ukraine? What's the principle by which you select the books you would like to read? Is it for your own consumption, or you share it with people who surround you right now?
So I share
They're
it.
very different, those books.
Yeah, it's I think an interesting question. Um, in part because it says a lot about Ukrainians. I always ask my fellows here, what can I get you from the United States? And the answer that I get over and over and over from the young guys is, the young Ukrainian guys, is please get us fantasy and science fiction books in English. They love them. It's a huge mood raiser. And they go in the battalion library and they disappear very quickly. I am more of a nonfiction reader, so you send me quite a bit of things about history. I have been reading recently a lot about the Second World War because essentially we are fighting the second, sometimes the First World War here. And I get useful insights from reading about those wars. The first good advice I found in a book about drones was from a British Army manual from the First World War.
Wow.
You will remember that was the first military use of airplanes, and they were primarily used as spotters. They would go out and look for targets. And one of the pieces, there's one piece of advice in that book for what to do about planes when you're in a trench. And it was, get into shadows and don't look up. You don't look up because against the ground, your face is very visible. Now, you have a listener by the name of Leonid, who was my source for all advice on drones since then.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first thing I ever found on a book from World War I. Another thing that resonated quite a bit for me is I was reading about the D-Day Allied landing in Normandy.
Yeah.
British, Canadian, Australian, and American troops landed on the Norman coast to take the war through France to Germany. And I was reading about what's called our public affairs officers. What these guys would do is when we liberated a town, they would go in and talk to the civilians and find out, what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have doctors? Is your hospital still standing? And I got to thinking about the contrast between that and what the Russian invaders do when they take land here. That's when the killing starts. And that's when the looting starts. And that's when the war crimes start. And for me, as a soldier, the war crimes are the most shocking things about this whole almost 4 years now. I originally planned to come here for 2 months, and I think I would have gone home after 2 months, except my very first mission, with my eyes, I saw 2 Russian war crimes. 2 times I saw them shell a refugee collection point, and it burned me through my soul to see that. Attacking soldiers, that's a war. Attacking civilians, that's a terrorist. And the civilians you're attacking in those days in an evacuation point, babushki, dedusi, grandmothers and grandfathers. That's why I stayed.
My impression is that the army, Russian army, tends to commit unforgivable things in the territory they can they can grab, and it's just looks like an ammo. There is no nothing that would make them at least seem as someone who's bringing something good. They destroy things, they raise things to the ground, and they kill everything that anything, and then they show up and they kill what's left. It's just it's my opinion. It's not propaganda. It's what I see, including in the Russian news, and they seem to be very proud of it. There is no condemnation of it anywhere in Russia nowadays, and even in the Russian opposition, they're more interested in how they're going to build another great Russia, as we discussed it earlier today.
So there are two kinds of causes of looting, of crimes of soldiers against local civilians in wartime. The most common cause is poor discipline. Poor discipline, good discipline is the officers and the non-commissioned officers make sure that doesn't happen. The other cause of looting and other violence against civilians in wartime is when it's ordered by the officers, and that's a very, very, very unusual thing. It's also very much a part of Putin's playbook. It is deliberate. It's deliberate and it's organized. It's so organized. A guy I worked with here is a doctor, and he lived in Bucha in a very nice neighborhood. And when the Russian troops were pulling out of Bucha, they stole a lot of stuff. They were just loading their vehicles with stuff. And they got to his neighborhood, and it was a much nicer neighborhood. He's a doctor. And they emptied their trucks, and they stole more stuff because there was better stuff in that neighborhood. That's organized. That is organized looting. And there were a lot of horrors in World War II. Many of them happened here when the Nazis killed 1.5 million people because they were like my grandmother, my grandfather, and me. They were Jewish. Some of the horrors were committed by the Russians. And the worst one to me is what they did when they took Berlin. Rape is one of the most horrific parts of war. And it's the kind of thing that happens very rarely by an American soldier. And if it happens and his buddies catch him, it's the end for him. He should hope they only arrest him. Okay? So the Russians got to Berlin. Can I curse?
Yes.
Yeah, you have to. The fucking Russian officers organized rapes for their troops. As a soldier, as a man, as a human being, I cannot imagine this. So, yeah, you're right. It is. I don't know how to say in English. In French,
it's part of the
for what the Russians do.
It's part of their modus operandi, if I give my Latin.
It is. Absolutely.
That's how they do it. That's how they register the victory. Nothing is everything beneath them. They are above above all, and by that very fact, they have no right to assert anything of that sort. It's just I don't want to sound too kind of clean about this matter because it's really disgusting. and it's awful. And this is how Russia conducts it. Everybody should remember it when they watch like 5 hour speech by Putin. They should remember it, that he's the man on the top of it all.
And the fact you say he's the man at the top of it all. And the problem is he is a man and the Russian soldiers are men. Here's the problem with that. We like to call them orcs. It's very common. An orc is a monster. Monsters do bad things because they are monsters. They have no choice. The Russian soldier is a man. He has a choice between good and evil. And Putin and the guy's general and the guy's battalion commander and the guy's company commander and the guy's platoon sergeant and the guy's squad corporal, they choose evil. And that's the problem, is they are humans. And it's the first thing humans learned, right? Is the difference between good and evil. And they choose evil.
And there's punishment if you not learn to discern one from the other to a certain age, right? Basically, from the beginning of existence of life, a person,
Right, that was the first punishment.
what's not to touch and what's not to eat and where not to go once you learn to walk.
Yeah.
But when World War II was going on, there was a piece by a very popular at the time Russian writer, Soviet writer, journalist Ilya Ehrenburg, and this article was called "Kill a German." And the situation was that the Germany, there's a lot of believable research about how the World War II, how the what's called the Great Patriotic War, they call it in Soviet times, once Hitler attacked Soviet Union, and it was to preempt the attack of Soviet Union onto Germany, because there's a great book by Viktor Suvorov called The Icebreaker, about Stalin willing to use Hitler as an icebreaker towards the West and then attack him from behind. That's why he was supporting Hitler, etc., etc. A lot of details, very well researched. And
they don't like to talk about that, do they?
Both were socialists.
Don't like to talk about their actual signed collaboration with the Nazis.
Yeah, absolutely. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. But back to kill a German. This was this situation was that the Germans were the invaders. They were the aggressors in this situation. We're not talking, comparing Stalin and Hitler. Let's put it aside for a moment. But they were what Russian military people are fighting for. Is it the old carpets and used dishwashing machines, or the money that they get they would never be able to earn otherwise?
I can answer that question quantitatively with numbers. There is, as we know, a huge Buryat and representation among the Russian military, and in general, people from they called the Central Asian republics.
Yeah.
Why is that so? They have a long tradition of military service because they live in horrible economic conditions, and the army paycheck is pretty good in comparison to what they would make at home. Killing is a bad thing. Dying is easy. We will all do it. Killing is hard. And a man who will kill for a paycheck, to me, is a level of scum, dirt, garbage. I can't justify it.
Oh, it's
I don't.
absolutely.
I cannot understand a man who will pull a trigger for money. I cannot understand who will pull a trigger on a civilian. I certainly cannot understand a man who will pull a trigger on a civilian for money.
It's one of the things, that bug me regarding Russia. If such a great country, quote unquote, can only give one way to a man to own a car and an apartment,
Yeah.
that he has to go and kill for this, in a country that never did anything for them, never invaded them, never took from them anything of this man's property. There was living in its own way. We can discuss that. We may not discuss that. But Ukraine wanted to be a separate country. There's a lot of separate countries in the world. So we got to fight with them all if they decide to not to come to our, hospitable table, and be raped like it happened during the Soviet times. Uh, that's not the way to exist further. So that kind of feeds into my attitude towards what's going on in Russia. And unfortunately, I don't see, as much as I love Russian culture and I use Russian language a lot, but it's a wonderful language, wonderful literature, etc., blah blah blah. Now everything is on the table already. That dinner has been served, and that dinner has been consumed, and we're thankful for it. But the banquet is over. Russia today is a country that is dangerous to the world, and I would support any effort that is would curtail the power of Russia, uh, just to take it to kind of the situation where they just they kind of laugh sardonically about it, but that's a moat with crocodiles. That's the attitude that they are encouraging. Basically, they want to be treated like that. They want to present themselves as a victim, and
As
a
with,
lot
I
of
hate people who do that. To me, when you're 10 years old, you must stop saying it's not fair. People who want to be victims, I have no respect for. I have many nieces and nephews, and they know that's the basic rule of behavior with Uncle Kevin is no whining.
no, but and at the same time, that's all what Russia is doing. The Tsar was good, the bad was bad, the Bolsheviks were bad.
And it's
Anybody,
always somebody else's fault, right?
always somebody else's fault, and they were given a pretty much straight line to capitalism and prosperity, and they experienced it for good, maybe 10 years. They experienced it in the 21st century, and there was not the prosperity of socialism, but the prosperity of capitalism, where a lot of people traveled. You can talk. They can talk all they want about sausage in the stores and the cheese in the big cities that they had, and food and champagne, etc., etc. But they were able to earn this, not to be someone's friend or some special list to get the
Right.
stuff for the New Year celebration, for the New Year
Mm-hmm.
party. That's how it was.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
now I've seen them in Florence, I've seen them in Venice, I've seen them on the Ramblas in Barcelona, all over the world. I've seen Russians who lived there, who went visited there, etc., etc. No more. No more. A lot of people who are very concerned, looking into the phones, calling frantically. Whoever I saw, I've seen some Russians who
Mm-hmm.
settled in Spain in my last trip there, but they all on the phones, and they are all kind of very, very busy with the problems, because that's not a good living that they used to have. And this is really
They threw it away. They threw it
yeah,
away. Meanwhile,
exactly.
here in Kyiv, a very, what's the word? Joyfully capitalist country, I would say. This is the most American place I have ever been outside of the United States.
In terms of
It's
material welfare, or in terms of spirit?
attitude, in terms of
Attitude.
attitude.
Attitude. Wow.
Yeah. A soldier said something to me once. He said, we grew up watching American TV. We internalized it completely, and we want to be America. Self-determination, man. And this is a
That's
great
right.
place to be an American, I will say. Meanwhile, Yura, we are on the last day of Hanukkah. In Podil and Kontratova Ploshcha, there are two very big menorahs. And it's made me think about a lot of things. It's made me think about similarities between Hanukkah and the war in Ukraine. It's made me think about similarities between the war in Ukraine and the War of Independence in Israel in 1948. And I think I have finally come to understand something that my friend Mikhail, he's a guy who lives here in Kyiv, and he said something to me once about the PLO terrorists that I never understood until I thought about this. Can I tell you?
Yeah, sure. I'm just answering the question that I was asked about your PayPal. It's on screen. Yeah, that's okay. I'm here.
Hanukkah, your listeners know, was a war of cultural survival. The enemies were what are called the Syrian Greeks. The Mediterranean basin looked very different in those days. There was an enormous amount of Greek cultural influence, and it was very strong in Israel, actually. When you look at the Gemara, there's an enormous amount, the Talmud, an enormous amount of participation in the big questions of Greek philosophy. When people talk about the three main divisions of Judaism in the Second Temple period, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes, they often compare them to the context of Greek Platonist philosophy, Gnostic philosophy. There's enormous similarities. And the Hanukkah War, the Maccabean War, was very much a war that attempted to push Greek cultural dominance onto Israel. You look at the kinds of things that were forbidden: studying Torah, they defiled the temple, circumcision. Circumcision was one of the things that the Maccabees were defending, the deepest cultural issues. And it's not difficult to see the Russian attempts to destroy, to suppress non-Russian culture, because Putin is very clear about it. Alexander Dugin is very clear about it. They are very clear that part of their work here is to destroy non-Russian culture in Ukraine. So the miracle of Hanukkah that we celebrate for 8 days is this. The temple, as I said, was defiled by the Syrian Greeks, and the Maccabees were of the priestly class, so the temple was very important to them. And when they retook Jerusalem, the first step was to purify the temple. It's a very labor-intensive project, and to begin again the temple worship services. That required lighting a lamp called the menorah, which goes back to the book of Exodus, Shemot in modern Hebrew, and the tabernacle. You need olive oil. And the olive oil, can I give you details?
Sure.
If it's too boring, just stop me.
No.
Many people have done it. So the way you make the oil for the temple services is you take an olive and you pierce. I'm sorry, I'm trying to hold Zuzik's leash here. You pierce the end of the olive. You cannot squeeze the olive. A drop of oil will come out, will ooze out under its own power. That's what you get to keep from that olive. So it takes a long time to make it. And when it was time to rededicate the temple, Hanukkah means dedication, something in the sense of dedicating an institution, a school, a monument. There was only enough oil for one day. Nes Gadol Hayasham, a great miracle happened. One day of oil lasted for 3 days. Now, February 24th, 2022, Putin invaded Ukraine. He invaded from the north, from the east, and from the south. It was supposed to be over in 3 days.
3 days.
Almost 4 years later, it's not over. Russia has a huge army. We don't. If they take one village, it's news, right? That's a miracle. 3 days, like the oil for 1 day, lasted for 8. A war that was supposed to last 3 days, we have held on for almost 3 years now. Yeah. And how that happened? Very much in the way that Israel survived in the War of 1948, the War of Liberation of Israel. And I'm going to pull out this book by General Petraeus, because he says some very memorable things. As I said, it's a very big book. The parts that have really stuck with me are the parts about the Israeli War of Independence. So the whole thing starts, and you have 5 Arab countries, some of them not even Israel's neighbors, Saudi Arabia and Iraq, for instance. 5 countries attack, right? A much smaller and underarmed Jewish state. As Shimon Peres said, wonderful quote, we were outgunned and we were outmanned. That means they had more weapons and they had more soldiers than we did. But we were not going to be outmatched. That means they weren't going to fight better than us. And they didn't. One of the battles that he talks about reminds me enormously of last winter and a month that I spent at the Southern Front. It was a fight for the little town of Negba in the Negev. There were 150 Israeli defenders. During the Arab assault, they were on the receiving end of 4,000 artillery shells. During last winter at the Southern Front, there was a months-long interruption in weapon supplies, especially artillery shells from our allies. And I would hear the daily bombardment on and on and on. And then maybe we would fire back 2 shells, maybe 1 on a real bleed that day, none at all. And with that lack of artillery, we missed a chance to turn the tide of this war. I'll explain why. When you have two opposing forces facing each other and shooting with guns, the guy with more guns, with more people and therefore more guns, he has an advantage. If you have 10 guys on one side and 20 guys on the other, then there are two people on one side shooting at every guy on the other side, right?
Yeah.
Artillery is a different situation. In artillery, the more people you have in an area, the more people you can potentially hit. There's actually, there's an equation for calculating when you can see the guy, how long will it take you to kill him, versus when you can't. When you're using artillery and drones, how long will it take you to kill him? There's some calculus in there. I won't embarrass myself by trying to go into it, but here's the basic idea. If you have, let's say you have 100, let's say you have 1 square kilometer and you have 100 guys on there. Or you have 1 square kilometer and you have 1,000 guys on there. If you're shooting at 1,000 guys in 1 square kilometer, you're just going to hit more people with every shell.
Sure.
It's the unusual situation where having more guys means you lose more people. So here we were outnumbered. You are typically outnumbered here. It's a point where artillery would have made a huge difference for us because we were outnumbered. And they're shelling the hell out of us every day. Sometimes we shoot back 2 rounds, sometimes 1. On a really bad day, none. I can remember so well from that station. I was working in a stabilization point, and the patients come in groups, doors open, bunch of guys come in, and you work very hard. You need to get done with them before the next group of guys comes in. You don't know when that will be. So you work very fast, very hard. And then you and the doctor, me and the doctor at least, go outside and have a cigarette. And I can remember so well times we'd finish taking care of a set of guys, and we'd go out on the porch, have a cigarette, and we'd hear boom, 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 watching the flashes in the trenches. We'd look at each other and say, that's not good. And put our cigarettes out and go back, right? And I can remember when, I'd be lying down at night, sleep on a stretcher, and the wool blanket that I have is the wool blanket that I will put on you tomorrow, and it'll be back on me again tonight, right? And I can remember lying there thinking, the people who are holding up the delivery of shells, do they not care that that we are dying, or are they happy that we are dying? It's a horrible thought. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible thought. But so these 150 Israeli troops in the town of Negbah, under a huge assault, huge, as I said. I'm sorry, am I frozen?
No, you're good, you're good. I see you well.
Okay, so they get 4,000 shells coming in. They have a bigger force, and they win. They hold the town. They don't let the enemy advance. one of the Egyptian officers was captured, and he asked, "How did you do it? How did you hold on through this?" And the local newspaper published the answer to the question, and I'd like to read it to you. Quantitatively, with numbers, the balance of forces was in your favor, but qualitatively, in terms of how good the forces are, the balance was in ours. There was one item which the Egyptian troops were lacking: a clear idea about the purpose of the battle. But this is precisely what we possessed in full measure: fearless spirit, the knowledge and conviction about the purpose of the battle, the realization that with our own bodies, we were blocking the enemy's way forward. Well, hell, that could be any Ukrainian soldier I know. That's exactly it. As you said, why does a Russian soldier sign up to join the army? He'll kill for money. He'll kill for the chance to steal. That's not very good motivation compared to the situation here. If you ask it, why does an Israeli soldier fight so hard? His parents, his wife, and his child, they are behind him, literally. Same thing here. We're not quitting until they go home.
Yes.
And, the whole thing, reading this made clear something to me that my friend Mikhail, a guy here in Kyiv, said to me one day. We were talking about the return of the hostages, how long after the October 7th massacres in Israel. And he said, the PLO is Russian. Stalin started it, and Putin still supports it. And you might know, although I try not to be a conspiracy theorist, it seems clear to me only one person benefited from the slaughter of civilians in Israel, and then the decimation of Gaza with some horrible side effects, horrible losses of civilian lives. Hamas did not benefit. The Palestinians did not benefit. Israel did not benefit. Iran did not benefit. Who benefited? Well, as soon as October 7th happened, suddenly the Western news was not talking about Ukraine. The Western news was talking about the slaughter of Israeli civilians and then the horrible fighting afterwards. That was the news. Putin got something out of that. Hamas is, to my knowledge, financed by Iran. Iran owes Putin a lot. To me, if Boris Palant were here, he would know the Latin expression. Follow the money. Who benefits?
Cui bono, cui prodis. I know Boris pretty
Cui
well.
bono. Yeah, thank you. Who benefits? Wasn't Israel, wasn't Hamas, wasn't the Palestinians, wasn't Iran. Putin benefited a lot. It's actually,
in a good Soviet style, it was Putin's birthday, 7th of October. It was his birthday. Kevin.
I'm going to stick with some numbers here. There's so as I think you know, before the war, I was a computational linguist, and my specialty was using computers and statistics to analyze big amounts of language data. And there was a wonderful paper published a couple of years ago on this topic. And what he looked at was what were many different sources of media, traditional media, non-traditional media, left-leaning media, right-leaning media, centrist media. What were they talking about before October 7th and after October 7th? And analyzing the words and the topics, as I am happy to explain how to do it. Very quickly, the public conversation changed. No more talking about the horrors that the invaders commit here. All the talking was about Israel and Palestine from there on, and that has not changed much when I look at the paper today. So what did Mikhail mean when he said the terrorists, they are Putin's today and Stalin started them? Reading this book about the evolution of warfare, one of the things that Petraeus talks about is the importance of even relatively primitive aircraft in a war. And one thing Israel was able to do, we have been able to do as well, and it's part of why we're still alive. There's a concept called air superiority. You have air support superiority when you can put your planes in the air when you want to put your planes in the air. You can send them where you want to send them, and they can do what you want them to do. If you have air superiority, chances are excellent that you will win. If you can't have air superiority, which we can't, and the Israelis couldn't either, if you can keep the other guy from having air superiority, that's pretty good too. That was pretty much their situation in 1948, and it's our situation in 1948 too. I can tell you my closest to death here, my closest episodes have been being bombed. And if someone had not donated to my drone crew an antenna so that we could fly from inside a Rutzeler Pochim, I would not be here. There's no question. Those are really big bombs, but only very, very close to the front, because all the Russians can do is send it right over the border and drop the bomb. And in their best case situations, launching missiles, they stay on their side of the border. We're not allowed to shoot them. We're not allowed to shoot them with weapons from our allies when they're in their own airspace. And they can come back, sit back, and launch a missile from altitude. It's a very powerful tactic. But in general, they can't fly here. So we can't, but neither can they. And that was very much the situation in Israel on a different scale during the 1948 War of Independence. Why? Well, David Petraeus explained to me what my friend Mikhail meant. Israel was initially getting Spitfires from Czechoslovakia, buying them from Czechoslovakia. Then Stalin issued an ukaz, stop selling jets to Israel. Well, you don't, not jets, I'm sorry, stop selling planes to Israel. This is pre-jets. Old Spitfires, as I said. No air superiority for Israel. And it's the first time I understood concretely, what did Mikhail mean? Probably there are other things that Stalin did to create this, unending war in the Middle East. But this is a very concrete thing that he did to lead to the terrorism that has come out of that political movement for longer than I have been alive. And I turned 64 years old today, Yura, and for longer than I've been
Happy
alive.
birthday. Show us Zhuzhik. Where's Zhuzhik? Where's Zhuzhik?
Иди сюда, Любчик. Иди сюда, Любчик.
Kevin, what a man. Where's Любчик? Where's Zhuzhik?
Я думаю, він втік. I think he ran off.
You met a girl?
I was just thinking today, who of us have not done something stupid that involved either a girl or a boy? No exception.
Ну, вот такой Кевин есть в нашей жизни, дорогие друзья. Такой человек, которого я лично, не знаю, горжусь тем, что я знаю его, что я встретился с ним благодаря Борису Паланту. Мы никогда не видели друг друга в жизни, мы не были знакомы. И сейчас мы говорим с этим человеком так, как будто мы его знаем уже. Но мы его знаем не первый год, действительно так. Друзья, да, я вывожу время от времени координаты Кевина. Пишите ему на email. Я с удовольствием это все сейчас выведу на экран. Kevin, people are asking for email.
Two girls were petting him, and as I brought him back, a guy sitting somewhere else said, I'll take him, I'll take the Кажи привет. Ніколи не каже привіт. Я думаю, він вміє, але...
Everybody, here's the Kevin's phone number. You can Zelle him if you can leave him a message. There's a very situation with electricity.
Please leave him a message.
He needs your support, verbal too, not necessarily material. But
absolutely. I was thinking today, I don't interact with people well anymore. I used to be a pretty happy guy. I hope I was easy to get along with now. I live in such a state of rage, a constant fury, that I don't even like to be around myself. And there are some people, there's some subjects you can only talk about with certain people, right? For me, some of those people are your listeners. It's amazing to me.
Yeah.
You guys keep me, you keep my heart beating, but you also keep my brain somewhat intact.
So important. I understood how much we are feeding off other people's hearts and minds when we communicate.
We all do amongst ourselves, right?
It's an absolutely material thing.
And the morale part of it is huge. You must have training, you must have stuff, but if you don't have morale, your war is lost. It's I talked about equations for calculating, like, how long will it take to kill somebody with artillery versus gunfire, stuff like that. The problem with those equations is you can't put things like morale into those equations,
Yeah.
I'm not saying mathematical modeling is bad. I'm saying it has some weaknesses, and those are the big weaknesses. The stuff in here and in here, and you guys keep me so strong with that.
Kevin, I wish we were in better circumstances in many regards, but that's where we kind of need to say that I wish we all would win on all fronts that we're fighting.
I think we will. I think we will. And the only way to guarantee that you will not win, Yura, is to stop fighting.
That's right.
As long as you are fighting, you have not lost. And that is true here. It's true in war. It's true in life, Yura.
Yeah. Don't quit. Don't quit. People, whatever you're fighting for, good people of the world, don't quit. Kevin, happy birthday to you, dear friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Hope your Hanukkah had some bright lights in it. And that's what we can certainly do this time as we meet. And all the best to your friends who surround you. May you protect them and they would protect you. And hope to see you soon for a good reason back home.
Absolutely. And let me say, I would like to remind people, when you send money by Zelle or by PayPal, I usually see a name. I don't always see a name, but I usually see a name. I never have contact information.
That's right.
So if I'm not thanking you, it's because I don't have a way to contact you. But on Zelle and PayPal, you can write a little note. Give me an email address, a phone number, Telegram, Facebook, I don't care. If you will give me a way to contact you, it makes me happy. I hate not saying thank you. It takes some pressure off me if you let me contact you and thank you.
Sure will. Друзья, пишите Кевину по этому адресу, даете ли вы ему какую-то помощь материальную или нет, но это его имейл, напишите ему, если вы какие-то деньги решили пожертвовать, помогая ему оказывать помощь, в свою очередь, украинским бойцам, напишите, что вы это сделали, ваше имя, он идентифицирует и напишет вам обратно, поблагодарит вас или задайте ему вопрос без того, чтобы передавать какую-либо помощь. Это тоже не останется без внимания. Это все, как вы понимаете, очень важно для Кевина. Пишите ему на любом языке, он сможет вам ответить на том языке, на котором вам это будет возможно прочесть. Kevin, thank you so very much. I'm encouraging people to write to you, not necessarily. It's desirable, of course, to have a donation to support things that you buy, and I facilitate.
Not necessary.
No, but that's not necessary. It's
not necessary.
Just
your words to me. I tell you, when I was in the hospital and your listeners were writing to me, I could cry. I'm not going to cry on the air. Not this time. I could have cried. Just those words. It's amazing.
Kevin, we love you. Stay safe.
Юра, слава Украине and God bless America.
Героям слава. God bless America. I'm Israel. Hi.